Now we are going to take a look at the current PicSet status and options panel. And as you can see, it has got 6 rows of information and buttons. And each of those of course refers to the 6 PicSets into which we put our competition pictures. And on the left hand side we've got all this yellow information here, and that shows us the current status of each of those PicSets. So if we look at PicSet 1 for example, which we've been using in past tutorials, it tells us we've got 9 images in the PicSet folder. It tells us that those images have been loaded via the load button over here, and it also tells us that they have been scored. And for PicSets 3, 4 and 5 for example, they're exactly the same as they were when we loaded the program in from the disk. They're all empty and obviously they haven't been scored or loaded. Next we have the Set View Presets, one button for each PicSet. We'll just click on that. Now we took a brief look at this page when we were loading our own pictures, when we wanted to load them using both of the options available to us here. And as you can see, there are quite a few more options on this page, and these are used to set the program up to run exactly as you want it to. But it can get rather complicated, so we devoted 2 separate tutorials on this disk to these presets, and we'll be looking at those later. So we'll leave them now by clicking one of these buttons down the bottom here. And next we got the Save Archive column and the Retrieve Archive column. Now with these buttons you can save all the current images and data, including scores if the PicSet's been judged, to a safe place where all can be retrieved at a later date, either for reviewing or perhaps rerunning the competition. You can also use this feature to load images and data for a competition on one computer, say your home machine, and transfer everything to another computer, say the club laptop, to actually run the competition. And equally you may wish to save the information on the club laptop after the judging and scoring and transfer this to your home computer to archive the information or perhaps print out the results. So let's see how this works, and we'll click the Save Archive button for PicSet 1. And what we do here is give the folder in which we're going to save these images and data a name. And I often suggest here that you put the name of the competition, perhaps it's Advanced, it's the Advanced section, and I'll put a date, so perhaps March 2011. OK, and then we just click Go. And it says processing at the bottom and complete. And when it's done that, it jumps back to our setup screen. And now all the images and data for PicSet 1 have been safely tucked away, and you can happily delete everything in PicSet 1 that you can see here if you wish, ready for loading the next competition. But now we've saved it or archived it, we need to know how to retrieve these images and data if we so wish. And we do this via the buttons under Retrieve Archive. Now you can retrieve the saved data and images into any of the PicSets, the ones that are currently empty of course, and they do not have to be retrieved into the same PicSet from which they were saved from. So let's retrieve these PicSet 1 images which we just saved into say PicSet 5, which we can see is empty. So we'll click on the Retrieve Archive button for PicSet 5. And when we click on these buttons we get this page up, and in the centre here it will list all the archived records that we have saved. And it tells us down the bottom here that what we need to do is to look down this list. We've only got one of course because we've only archived one record, and take a note of the number by the side of it, and that's number 1. Put the number in the little box here, 1, and then we can tell it to retrieve the archive. And we click Retrieve Archive. And what that would have done now
is retrieve that archive and put it into pixset 5. And you can see it's done that. If you look at pixset 5 here, you can see it was empty before. It's now got 9 images, it's loaded and it's scored. Exactly the same as pixset 1, which we saved it from. I just want to go into retrieve archive once more. Doesn't matter which one I pick. And point out this button down here. Now after a time, if you've archived an awful lot of records, you'll get a great big long list down here, and many of them will become redundant and you won't want them anymore. And all you have to do is to select the number from here, put it in the box and click delete record, and it will delete that archive record. Okay, let's get out of that and get back to our setup screen. Next we've got clear data, and there's 2 columns of buttons here for each pixet, all or scores only. And this is pretty self-explanatory. You've just got the 2 options, all or score only. Now clearing the scores only, this can be useful if you like to do a test judging before a big night at the club. You can score them and make sure everything works to your liking, and then just delete the scores by clicking this button here, ready for the judge to do his bit on the night. We do it with pixet 5 here, which you can see already scored. And if I click on the scores only clear data button, it says, are you sure you want to delete them? Y for yes. And you can now see under pixet 5, it now says scored no. The scores have been deleted. If you click on the all clear button, it will clear everything out of that pixet. Now at the moment we've got 9 images in there and they're loaded, but if I click the clear all button, again we get the little prompt, are we sure we want to do this? Key Y for yes. And you can now see that pixet 5 is empty. The next column are the load buttons. And I don't think we need to say too much more about this because we've been loading our own images in past tutorials using those buttons. Just one quick aspect of this. If we try and load a pixet which has already been loaded, pixet 1 here for example, if I click on that, it will actually bring up an alert and say that it's already loaded, and reloading will overwrite existing data. And again we've got the Y for yes or N for no if we wish to do that. But we've also got, along the bottom here, it says key V to view current display order. And that's something you may want to do. And if I key V, I will get the display order up. R to return to the setup screen. Now finally, we'll look at the add information column down here. We'll just click on one of those. And here you can enter a judge's name and a competition name for that pixet competition. And if you do this, that information will appear at relevant times during the competition. And that basically means that it will appear on the saved and printed display lists, and it will also appear on the saved and printed results table lists. It will also appear on something called pre-post screens. But again, we'll come across these in a later tutorial. I'm not going to put anything in there now. I'm just going to click continue and go back to the setup screen. Now just before we close this tutorial, I want to go back to what we mentioned earlier about moving images from one computer to another. And to do this, it's helpful to have a little knowledge of Windows-based folders and files. Now we talked about saving an archive and moving it to another computer to be retrieved by these buttons. And the secret of this, of course, is to know where ICPro has stored the folder we're after. And that place is on your C drive in a folder called ICPro 18 Code Archive. Now that's all a bit of a mouthful, so let's just get out of this and have a look where that file is. So we want to go to our C drive, my computer C drive. So we want ICPro 18, that's there. We then want the code folder. We then want the archive folder. And up the top there you can see we've got a folder called Advanced March 2011, and that's the folder with the images and data that you saved a little bit earlier. We can forget about the text file that's in here. Now if we want to move that and retrieve it onto another computer, we can just copy that folder, put it on a disk or a memory stick, and move it over to the other computer and put it back into the same place as it is here now. And we remember that is C drive, folder ImageCompro 18, folder code, folder archive. And if we do that, we'll find that when we open up ImageCompro 18 on the new computer, we can then retrieve it via these retrieve archive buttons in exactly the same way as we did earlier on. And that's all for the current status and options panel.